Thank you. Such an honor to be here. As usual. Thank you so much. With all this beauty and all this art and all this truth and honesty, honesty is what we need more than ever. And sometimes that honesty is so hard to bear. And as a visual artist and a writer, I deal with both these things. And it is an honor, again, to be on the cover of Whirlwind magazine, to be a part of this journey that Lamont and Sean have made this endeavor such an important thing for all of us. And its designer, would you take a bow? We need all of these people also. And all of us, we need to stick together to make all of this possible, to show resistance to the historical narrative that is trying to be written without our consciousness. So what is important to me, the work that is in this journal that's on the cover, on the inside with all the visual artists and writers, is early work of mine. And what I'm going to read to you now is some current work of mine that is on view, along with some early work at Temple University at the Center for Humanities. A show of mine that is up now called Displaced by Conflict. But I want to talk about formalism in art, and how formalism, by mainstream art criticism, whether you're a visual artist or a poet, deals with how mainstream art criticism talks about marginalized voices. And I'm just going to read a few of the poems that I wrote from this series and an excerpt from the manifesto that I wrote about the series. So everything that I do now is a manifesto about the series, because the manifesto helps me think out loud about the series that I'm working on. Anything that I can't make with material as a visual artist, I do in poetry, because I'm also a poet. Formalism functions as the cosmetics of art criticism. Like aluminum siding on a slumlord's property, it is an attempt to disguise what is crumbling beneath the surface politics of its proselytizing church bells, bringing in the megachurch, museums, galleries, where there are more black bodies guarding the white cube than exhibiting in it. And the white cube is language that we talk about as visual artists and writers about visual art, which is the gallery system. And anything outside that gallery, the bourgeoisie does not want to talk about, which is going on outside that gallery. You walk outside any campus in this country, you will see more black bodies guarding a university than you do exhibiting in the university galleries that inhabit that place. So it's important to think about that. And so that's what this series is about. So I'm going to read to you my work that deals with art history and art criticism and mainstream art criticism. To talk about that technical language of art criticism, how we use this technical language to talk about art history and art criticism. So, if any of you know these critics or this technical language, you probably know what I'm talking about. Ken Johnson's formalist criticism will stop and frisk you in the New York Times. Wrong-headed Ken Johnson. White frames on white walls will colonize the space. Clement Greenberg's forked tongue eats people. This is after Harold Rosenberg. Apparently, aesthetics can function as a tool of racism. After Carrie James Marshall. To be called a black artist seems to perform a liberating function in the minds of a lot of people. So who needs not to know? Who needs not to think of you as a black artist in order to be called a real artist? 2005. Now this is in the chronology of Amy Césaire's work as a poet, activist, and as a mayor of Fort-de-France. 2005. And this is what I read in the chronology of Amy Césaire's life after reading his book of poems. I think it was Solar Throat Slashed. 2005. Amy Césaire, as the honorary mayor of the city of Fort-de-France, refuses to receive Nicolas Sarkozy because the French government had recently passed a law that called for the recognition of the positive aspects of colonialism. After Mika Ball. Political art is art because it is political. Anyone know who Marjorie Perloff is? Yeah. Read your literary criticism so you know who you're dealing with. Marjorie Perloff's criticism is a coffin that won't shut. After Craig Burnett. Guston held up a dirty mirror to Greenbergian purity. Does anyone here know who Ota Bingo was? Ota Bingo was a so-called pygmy who was taken from Africa with a lot of other Africans, I think maybe 10 or 12, brought to America and put in the Bronx, one of those zoos, exactly. The World's Fair, I think, was first. But when those 10 or 12 people were taken back, this white man brought him back. and kept him in the equivalent that is the Science Museum in Philadelphia, where he was free to roam. And while he was free to roam, they had a fundraiser for the Science Museum in New York, where Otabinga was. And I made a work out of this incident, which was simply that Otabinga flung a chair at the head of Florence Guggenheim. Florence Guggenheim was there, and he said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna flung your chair at him." Because I'm sure they were fucking with him the whole time.